So, another artificial sweetening agent that is very often used is aspartame. So, another one is B, aspartame. This is about 100 times as sweet as sucrose, as sweet as sucrose. So, this is also much sweeter than sucrose, the natural sweetener. Now, chemically aspartame is a dipeptide. We have studied about peptides and peptide bonds when we were studying about proteins, right? So, proteins are polyamino acids. So, these amino acids are linked together by the peptide bonds and they are called as polypeptides. So, the same peptide is used here. Aspartame is considered to be a dipeptide. That means it is formed by the condensation of two amino acids, and the bond between those two amino acids is a peptide bond. So, you call it as a dipeptide. So, what are the two amino acids which have combined to give you this particular artificial sweetening agent or sweetener? Let us see. From the name itself you can guess. Aspar meaning it is obtained from aspartic acid. So, aspartic acid is an amino acid plus the other one is phenylalanine, other amino acid, phenylalanine, the methyl ester of this. So, methyl ester of phenylalanine. So, these two amino acids on condensation give rise to a dipeptide because they are formed from two types of amino acids, two amino acids. And so, aspartame can be described as a dipeptide obtained by condensation reaction between aspartic acid and phenylalanine. Let us try to write the structure, right. Aspartic acid is COOH, CH2, CH, NH2 and COOH. So, the OH part must have gone, and here you have phenylalanine. So, you have NH of the NH2 of phenylalanine and then you have CH, CH2, phenyl group, so C6H5 and then you have COO, CH3. So, this is the structure of aspartame. So, this is the structure of aspartame, which is a dipeptide of aspartic acid and phenylalanine, the methyl ester of phenylalanine. So, if we can see the structure here, COOH, CH2, CHNH2, COOH, that is the structure of aspartic acid. So, the OH of the COOH and the H of the NH2 of phenylalanine are removed as water, giving you this peptide bond. This bond is called as a peptide bond, CONH bond. And this part of the molecule has come from what is called as aspartic acid, and the rest of the molecule has come from phenylalanine, and that is a methyl ester. That is why you have not COOH but you have COOCH3. So, this aspartame chemically is a dipeptide of aspartic acid and phenylalanine, its methyl ester. This is the methyl ester of phenylalanine which has undergone condensation with this aspartic acid. So, this is the structure of aspartame. Now, aspartame is 100 times as sweet as sucrose, right. Now, one problem with aspartame is, although it is very widely used, it is used only for cold foods. That means like soft drinks, we have soft drinks, chilled drinks, isn't it? So, in soft drinks you can use this particular sweetening agent. Now, why can't you use it at higher temperatures? That is because aspartame decomposes at cooking temperatures. So, if you were to use it in a food which is obtained after cooking, then it would decompose and not serve the purpose. That is why this particular sweetening agent is used only in the case of cold foods like soft drinks which are had cold, or ice creams, those are also served cold. So, in those foods which are cold, this artificial sweetening agent can be used. That is because it decomposes at cooking temperatures. That is the reason why aspartame, the sweetening agent, is only used in cold food which is served cold only, because it is stable only at low temperatures, and as we said, it is 100 times as sweet as sucrose. Right. Now, let us go on to another very commonly used artificial sweetening agent, that is allitame. Allitame. It has a complex structure and it is 2000 times as sweet as sucrose. So, it is very sweet. So, C, we have allitame. How sweet is this? So, sweetness is always measured or compared in terms of the natural sweetener, that is sucrose. So, that figure whatever is given 550 or 100 or now we are saying 2000, all this is only based, it is comparative to the natural sweetener, that is sucrose. So, allitame is 2000 times very sweet as sucrose. Now, the problem with this is it is very stable, it does not decompose at cooking temperature, that is not a problem. But here the problem is it is very difficult to control its sweetness. So, you cannot increase or decrease the sweetness proportionately, very difficult to control its sweetness, that is why this is not very often used. So, what is the problem with allitame? Difficult to control its sweetness. To control its sweetness, although it is very stable at cooking temperatures, this is not a problem at all. Cooking temperatures. Now, let us discuss one more type of artificial sweetening agent which is very often used and widely used, and that is sucralose. So, the next artificial sweetener is sucralose. D, you have sucralose. Now, what is this sucralose? As the name suggests, it is very closely related in structure to sucrose, which is the natural sweetener. It is a trichloro derivative of sucrose. So, it has exactly the same structure as sucrose, except in 3 different places you are having 3 chlorine atoms attached. That is why it is called as a trichloro derivative of sucrose, that is sucralose, and it is 600 times as sweet as sucrose. So, comparatively it is 600 times as sweet as sucrose, right. So, this is another artificial sweetening agent which is used very widely because of its sweetness, much sweeter than sucrose. It is stable at cooking temperature, so it does not decompose, and also it looks also very similar to sucrose, and it has a structure similar to sucrose, and also appearance is similar to sucrose. So, it is very similar to sucrose. Very similar to sucrose in appearance and taste. So, people prefer to have this because it does not add to the calorie intake. That is the major reason why artificial sweeteners are used. That is right. So, that is about sweetening agents. Now, let us go on to another type of food additives in which chemistry plays a very important role. So, we are talking about application of chemistry in the food industry. We have already seen one application as artificial sweeteners. Let us go on to the second application in the food industry as preservatives. Preservatives. Now, why do we need preservatives in the first place? We know that food gets spoiled very easily over a period of time. So, different types of food get spoiled in their own time periods. Now, that is called as the shelf life of that food material, right? Now, why does food get spoiled? Food gets spoiled due to the growth of microorganisms. So, if you leave food outside for a certain period of time, then it results in the development of microorganisms like bacteria and so on. Now, these microorganisms, the fungi, algae and so on, fungi mostly. So, preservatives are required to kill the growth of, kill the microorganisms or to suppress the microorganisms or suppress the growth of microorganisms. Inhibit, let us say inhibit the growth of, inhibit their growth, because it is these microorganisms that are responsible for the spoilage of food, right? Now, very commonly used preservatives that we know are table salt, the salt that we use in the kitchen, table salt. Sugar is also a preservative. Vegetable oils, see in the pickles that we have, we use the pickles over a period of 1 year even. Now, the pickles are not getting spoiled because of the presence of lot of oil that you pour there. So, vegetable oils are very good preservatives. So, vegetable oils, and a very commonly used preservative is sodium benzoate. This is a chemical, sodium benzoate. So, these are the common preservatives used. Now, how are they able to increase the shelf life of the food material? By inhibiting the growth of microorganisms or sometimes even killing the microorganisms. So, that is the role played by these food additives called as preservatives. Now, sodium benzoate is a very widely used food preservative. This is because the sodium benzoate gets excreted out in the urine, because after going inside the body it is metabolized into what is called as hippuric acid. Hippuric acid. So, the sodium benzoate that we add as a food additive to different food materials, after going inside the body it changes into this compound that is called as hippuric acid, and this hippuric acid can be excreted out in the urine and thereby it is removed from the body. So, it is absolutely safe, and that is why it is a very popularly used preservative. And not only that, you have other preservatives also used like salts of propanoic acid or sorbic acid. So, salts of sorbic acid and propanoic acid, these are also commonly used preservatives. So, synthetic preservatives. So, why do we require these food additives called preservatives? Because they inhibit or kill microorganisms, inhibit the growth of microorganisms or kill the microorganism. It is these microorganisms which are responsible for the spoilage of food. So, in the presence of these agents or food additives, the microorganisms do not grow and the food remains fresh. Now, the common preservatives used are table salt, sugar, vegetable oils, and a very commonly used preservative is sodium benzoate. And what is the advantage of sodium benzoate? because after going into the body it is metabolized as hippuric acid, which can be readily excreted out in the urine, and that is why it is absolutely safe. Other synthetically added food additives to function as preservatives are salts of sorbic acid and propanoic acid. So, that is about the second category of food additives, that is preservatives. Next, let us go on to another major class of food additives, that is antioxidants. So, let us see what is the role played by this category of food additives, that is antioxidants. So, the third category is antioxidants. So, what is it that these antioxidants do? So, these are chemical substances which are readily oxidized by naturally available oxygen, because oxygen plays a very important role in reacting with the foodstuffs. Mainly the oily foodstuffs, they react with oxygen, they undergo oxidation, their color changes, their smell changes, and their taste also changes. This property is called as rancidity. So, what is rancidity? It is the change in the color, the taste and the appearance of food due to the action of oxygen on foodstuffs, mostly the oily foodstuffs. So, if you must have seen in your homes also, if you buy some oily foodstuffs and store them in a container for a long time, and then if you taste those foodstuffs, they taste totally different and they smell, they have a faint kind of bad odor. Now, that is because of aerial oxidation in the air. So, oxygen plays a very important role in spoiling oily foods and leading to what is called as rancidity. So, antioxidants are chemicals that we add as food additives, which will preferentially react with oxygen and not allow oxygen to spoil the foodstuffs. That is why they are called as antioxidants. They do not allow the oxidation of foodstuffs because they have a greater affinity for oxygen than the food that they are protecting. So, suppose you have a packet of chips and you want to store it for a long time. If there was some antioxidant present in it, then that would preferentially react with oxygen and not allow the oxygen to spoil that particular foodstuff. So, this is the role played by antioxidant. They prevent the oxidation of foodstuffs by oxygen. So, let us write down what are antioxidants. They are chemicals which prevent reaction of oxygen with foodstuffs. What happens if oxygen reacts with foodstuffs? It leads to rancidity or spoilage of food. So, antioxidants play such an important role. Now, very commonly used antioxidants which serve this particular purpose are BHT and BHA. These are short forms for butyrated hydroxytoluene and butyrated hydroxyanisole. So, let us write down the full forms of these antioxidants. Butyrated hydroxytoluene and butyrated, BHT is this particular thing, and BHA is butyrated hydroxyanisole. So, those are the full forms of these two particular very popularly used antioxidants in foodstuffs. So, canned food usually has these antioxidants added. Now BHA is known to be added to butter that we use on bread. So addition of BHA to butter increases the shelf life of butter from a few months to a few years. So that much change there is in the shelf life of the foodstuff by addition of these antioxidants. So BHA is very commonly added to butter, and by adding it to butter, it makes the butter remain fresh for years together. Compared to if you don't add this, then it would get spoiled in a few months. But this addition of BHA increases the shelf life from months to years. So for several years butter will remain fresh in the presence of this particular antioxidant that is called as BHA or butyrated hydroxyanisole, right? And the other antioxidant commonly used is butyrated hydroxytoluene. Now let us discuss another class of drugs, that is anti-fertility drugs. Before this, we were discussing about what are called as antibiotics, right? Antibiotics were the drugs which were used to kill microorganisms or to impair their development and growth, and thereby treating diseases. So now we have a wide variety of antibiotics used for the various purposes, and there has been a great revolution in the synthesis of antibiotics. Now this revolution in the synthesis of antibiotics has led to the increase in lifespan of man. So man is living for a much longer time because of the availability of such effective drugs as antibiotics. Now because of this, a new problem has arisen. What is that problem? There is a sudden increase in the population, that is called as population explosion. So if the population increases, it leads to several social issues in the direction of shortage of food resources, unemployment, environmental issues and so on. So many complications arise due to the problem of overpopulation, and because of that we have to go in for what is called as family planning. So you must have heard this term family planning, and it is in this direction to control population that we are taking up these programs on family planning, and anti-fertility drugs are required in this particular direction. So we are going to discuss about anti-fertility drugs or birth control pills. So what are these drugs actually? These birth control pills are basically a mixture of progesterone derivatives and estrogen derivatives. So what is the basic problem that we are facing because of the revolution in antibiotics? Overpopulation. So overpopulation has led to several social issues, as we said. What are the social issues? That is shortage of food resources, shortage of food resources, you have unemployment, what else? Various environmental issues also crop up, environmental issues. Now to tackle all these issues, the government has come up with what is called as family planning. These are programs to control the population. So family planning programs have come into the picture. Now for family planning, what are the kind of drugs that we need to use? They are the anti-fertility drugs. They are called as birth control pills. Birth control. And what are these birth control pills basically made of? They are made of combinations of or a mixture of progesterone is a hormone, and estrogen, another hormone, derivatives. So most of the birth control pills that are required to execute this program on family planning are mixtures of progesterone and estrogen derivatives, right. Now this progesterone is a hormone known to suppress what is called as ovulation. So progesterone suppresses ovulation. This is the initial processes of reproduction. So if ovulation can be controlled, automatically birth control happens. So progesterone is a hormone known to suppress ovulation. Now progesterone derivatives are found to be much more potent than the natural progesterone, and synthetically these derivatives can be prepared by chemical analysis. So progesterone derivatives are very widely used in birth control. Norethindrone is a very popularly used progesterone derivative used as an anti-fertility drug. So what is the name? That norethindrone. Norethindrone. So this is basically a progesterone derivative which is very widely used as a birth control pill, right. Now similarly you also have estrogen derivatives also used in combination with progesterone derivatives, and for that we use ethinyl estradiol or novestrol. So another anti-fertility drug is novestrol. This is a common name. It is actually ethinyl estradiol. So this is actually a combination of estrogen and progesterone derivatives. So this is the use of the anti-fertility drugs. As we have said, a revolution in the field of antibiotics has led to overpopulation, which has led to various social issues. And to combat these social issues, it became important to introduce the family planning program, and for which these birth control pills are very much required. They are basically a mixture of progesterone derivatives and estrogen derivatives. It is found that progesterone suppresses what is called as ovulation and thereby controls the birth or controls the population, right. And we have seen two important drugs which are called as anti-fertility drugs, which are very widely used. Norethindrone is a progesterone derivative, and synthetic progesterone is found to be much more potent than the natural progesterone. An estrogen derivative along with the progesterone derivative is novestrol. This is the common name, and chemically it is ethinyl estradiol. So this is about anti-fertility drugs. Next, let us go on to the application of chemistry in the food industry, right. So that is the next major application of chemistry. We have seen chemistry is important in all walks of life, and in this chapter we are discussing about its application in, firstly we saw in drugs. Now let us see what is the application of chemistry in the food industry. So that is the second application of chemistry, second field. So application of chemistry in the food industry. Now broadly speaking, the application of chemistry in the food industry involves three major areas. What are those three major areas? Let us name them. First of all, we need to preserve food. We don't want it to get spoiled. So in the form of preservatives, you have to use some chemicals. We use chemicals. So in the field of preservatives, chemistry comes into play. Then another field is to improve or enhance the quality of food or the aesthetic value of food. So the second area is to enhance the what you call as appearance or appeal of food. What do we mean by this? See, food that looks very delicious is very attractive to anyone. You feel like eating the food which looks good too. Not only tastes good, first you see the food, if it looks good, you feel like eating. Like many of the sweets have a thin lining of silver stuck on them. So that makes them very appealing and you feel like eating those foods and they feel very delectable. So that's the second important application of chemistry in food, is to enhance the appeal of food. And the third area where you have chemistry coming into play is to enhance nutritive value of food. Nutritive value of food. Now whatever may be the use, all these substances or chemicals which we are adding to food, they are called as food additives. They are called as food additives. So anything that you add for any of these three reasons, either to preserve it for a longer time, or to increase the appeal of food, or to increase the nutritive value of food, for whatever reason you are adding, they are called as food additives. And most of these food additives, they do not have any nutritive value except for one category of additives which are actually adding to the nutritive value by adding minerals, vitamins and so on. So except for those preservative which we actually add to preserve up to increase the nutritive value, all other food additives are non-nutritive in nature. Non-nutritive means their presence does not increase the nutritive value. So except for the nutritive supplements that we add to food, all other food additives are non-nutritive. So most of the food additives are non-nutritive. Non-nutritive. They don't increase the nutritive value of food at all, right? They are either used for preservation or to increase the appeal of the food, right? So now based on these three areas of usage of chemistry, these food additives are further classified into 7 different categories. Let us see what those 7 different categories are, right? So we said we are adding these food additives either to preserve them for a longer time, to make the food more appealing, or to make the food more nutritive. As I said, compared to these 3 areas, most of the food additives are non-nutritive. Now, food additives can be broadly classified under these headings. First of all, food colors. Very often we use food colors to make the food look attractive, right? Then second, we add flavors. So you have various types of ice creams. You have vanilla flavor, butterscotch flavor, you have so many other, tutti frutti, so many other flavors are there. So flavors are very commonly used as food additives. Not only that, sweetening agents or sweeteners. Now why do we use sweeteners? The natural sweeteners usually add to the calorific value, that is they add to the calorie intake. So those who are mindful of the calories that are going in, who want to remain slim, usually they go for artificial sweeteners. So these sweeteners are also food additives, right? And thirdly, you can have stabilizers. The stabilizers are usually emulsifiers. So this is another class of food additives, emulsifiers. And then you have the preservatives, of course, to preserve the food for a longer time, preservatives. And then what else do you require? Sometimes the flours, the wheat flour or the maida or the rice flour or whatever, it may be slightly brownish in color. So to make it look good, they add bleaches. So to improve the appearance of flour, improve appearance of flours, appearance of flours. Flours we mean maida, wheat flour, rice flour and so on. We add what are called as bleaches. So what are these bleaches? That slight brownish tinge that may be present in the natural flour, it is made pure white by the addition of these bleaches. So another important food additives are bleaches, which for example improve the appearance of various types of flours. So that's why your maida looks so white. Even your wheat flour, it should look brownish, but it is white because they use these artificial food additives that are called as bleaches. So you have food colors, you have flavors and sweeteners, you have stabilizers or emulsifiers and preservatives of course, and to improve the appearance of flours you are having various types of bleaches. Now not only that, there are other categories of food additives also. They are called antioxidants. Antioxidants. Now what are these antioxidants? Oxygen plays a very important role in oxidizing the food and spoiling it. Like most of the fatty or oily substances, they get oxidized and they become rancid, or their taste changes. So the action of oxygen which is there in the air is also, it is promoting the spoilage of food. So antioxidants are added as food additives to fight against that oxidation by air or oxygen, thereby preserving the food. So antioxidants are also a kind of preservatives which are externally added as food additives, right. Then we come to, you have another category, and then we come to what are called as nutritive supplements. These are the only nutritive food additives. So nutritive supplements are also added as food additives. What do they add? They add like vitamins, minerals, amino acids. So this is another category of food additives, which is the only food additive which increases or enhances the nutritive value of food. All others, all the remaining categories are non-nutritive. So they are either helping to preserve the food or they are helping to enhance the appeal of food, all the others. Only the seventh category, that is nutritive supplements, which supplement vitamins, minerals and amino acids. These are the only food additives that are nutritive in nature. All other food additives are non-nutritive in nature, right. So out of all these categories of food additives that we have, in this section we will be studying about three major food additives. What are those three major food additives? We will talk about what are sweetening agents or sweeteners. Then we will talk about preservatives, various types of preservatives that are available, and then we will talk about what are called as antioxidants. So although broadly we have categorized the food additives into 7 different categories, we will discuss in detail about these 3 types of food additives, that is the sweeteners or sweetening agents, the preservatives and the antioxidants, right. So let us go on to the discussion of what are sweeteners or sweetening agents, right. So the first category of food additives that we are going to discuss are called as sweetening agents, also called as sweeteners, right. Now we know the natural sweetener, for if you want to prepare sweet, the first thing you will be needing is sugar, isn't it. So sucrose is a natural sweetener. You get sucrose or dextrose from cane sugar, or even beetroot also it is prepared, but very commonly it is obtained from sugar cane, and this sucrose is supposed to be a natural sweetener. So, what is wrong with the natural sweetener? Why should anybody go in for artificial sweeteners or chemicals? Now, the reason is this sucrose, although it is a sweetener, it gives a sweet taste, it also adds to the calories. That means it increases the calorie intake. So, by having those sweets, the person gets extra calories which he does not need. So, suppose the person is very conscious of how many calories he is having, and if he is interested in slimming, he should not go in for natural sweetener like sucrose, because this adds to the calorie intake. It adds to calorie intake. What is the meaning of calorie intake? We measure the amount of energy where we get from the various foodstuffs in terms of calorific value, the calories that we get from a particular amount of a particular food. So, if you are calorie conscious, or if you are watching your weight, then you would normally not go in for the natural sweetener, that is sucrose. That is the reason why various sweetening agents or sweeteners have come into the market, right? And the most common artificial or synthetic sweetener or sweetening agent is saccharin. So, not only people who are watching their weight, but even diabetic patients who are not supposed to have additional calories or sugar intake, they also prefer these artificial sweetening agents because they do not add to the calories. So, these synthetic sweeteners are used by people who are interested in remaining slim. Not only them, even the diabetic patients, doctors prescribe that they should use these artificial sweeteners. So, saccharin is a very commonly used sweetening agent or sweetener, and this is like around 550 times as sweet as cane sugar, as sweet as cane sugar. Now, chemically saccharin is orthosulfobenzimide. Benzimide. Let us draw the structure. You have a benzene ring, you have the imide group CONH, NH group imide and CONH, and then you have sulfo. So, this is the structure. The sulfo part is ortho to the imide group. So, this is orthosulfobenzimide. So, chemically this is the name and this is the structure of saccharin. As I said, it is for 550 times as sweet as sucrose. So, anybody who is interested in having something sweet might as well use saccharin instead of sucrose. It is much sweeter than sucrose, and also it does not add to the calories. So, diabetics and slimmers would be very much interested in using this particular artificial sweetener, right? And not only that, it is readily excreted out in the urine and it is totally unchanged. So, it is most harmless and it does not undergo any change in the body and it does not add to any calorie intake. So, in every way it seems to be very safe. That is why it is the first most widely used artificial sweetening agent, that is saccharin, which is chemically orthosulfobenzimide, having the imide group CONH group and sulfo group which is ortho to the imide group. That is why it is called as orthosulfobenzimide, and it is much sweeter than sucrose. And best part of it is that it is excreted out readily in the urine, does not remain in the body, does not undergo any change inside the body. So, it is absolutely safe, and very often it is used by diabetics and those who want to slim down, right. So, this is one of the artificial sweetening agent. Not only this, many other sweeteners or sweetening agents are available in the market. You have another sweetening agent or sweetener called as.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.